Okay, welcome back to Old White Mercury. In the last video we did, the part 2 video, we were checking the shimming on this transmission with our tool here, and I was having a heck of a time getting this thing to go in there. I think mainly because with this new drive shaft, I put a new keyway in there, a key, and so I was having a hard time getting that to go into the impeller. But after we got off camera there, I fooled with it a little bit more. Finally, I got it to go down in there and started playing around with the shimming. So, one thing I did want to bring up, I got a little checklist here, but one thing I wanted to tell you is up until about a week ago, I used to have an old flip phone. So this phone's new to me. Obviously doing all of this is new to me. So I definitely have to learn how to do some editing. And I'm pretty sure when I go to post a video, I know I watch other videos, you can put stuff down in the description. So hopefully that works out okay, because I'm going to try to list some of the basic parts that you need. Or if you don't need them, if you decide you want to change them, sometimes I think it's a good idea with some of the small stuff. But I'll have the part numbers listed for you. And actually what I'm going to do is, as we go, I'm also going to give you some of the numbers. So if you want to, for those of you that might be watching this just to possibly do an impeller on one of these motors that you might have picked up, or you might see one and decide you want to try doing it, you'll have the part numbers available. So hopefully this one won't take so long either for you guys. But what we're going to do for now is we're going to get this transmission out of here. And that brings me up to another point. When we were pulling this apart in the part 1 video, I told you to turn this drive shaft clockwise. And the more I thought about it after, I think it's actually counterclockwise to try to get this drive shaft out of here, especially after it's been in there for a while. I would try it both ways, but I believe if it's counterclockwise, you're unloading the springs, and I think it tends to not fight you as much, and you might have a better chance getting it out that way. But, so, let's see. Yeah, it was the phone, and that. Alright, so, let's get this thing out of here. So I'm just going to reach down here. I'm grabbing the drive shaft. I'm just pushing up on it. And we're going to be careful because I don't have the springs on here. So I don't want to lose any of these parts. Okay. I'm just going to put these aside for a minute. And some of our shims actually stayed on the drive shaft here, so I'm going to grab these. I'll take those right off. Set this here. And there's still one down in there. I think I'm going to grab it out of there. Okay. So what I ended up doing the other day is I measured the shims that were in there. We had roughly, I believe it was 57 thousandths, if I remember correctly. I measured those with this dial caliper here, this is one of them electronic ones. I got a regular one too. This one to me. It's a little lazier, this one. Make sure it's zeroed out. These are the shims that I came up with. So I think we were at, I believe it was 57 thousandths, and I'm at, let's see here. Yeah, I'm at about 54. So the shimming ended up being just a little bit less than what was in there. So, with that being said, I'm not sure if I said it, but if you want to grab a pen and paper or whatever to write down some of these numbers in case for some reason I screw up putting this, I don't get it in the description somehow. I just figured I'd let you know. We got one thick shim on here and a couple thinner ones. So normally when I put these on, which I'm going to wait a minute, but normally when I put these on, I like to put the thinner ones on there and then put the thick one on the top. So it's kind of riding on that one. Set that right there. The next thing we got to do is we're going to get our transmission back together. And when I was putting this together to check the shimming on this, I didn't really exactly show you. There's not much to it here. You got this drum here that's got a gear on the bottom. I'll bring this over, see if you guys can see this. All right, yep. And then you got this side. Okay, this is going to slide on here. Make sure there's a shim in here. Make sure that's in there. Slide that on there. And then we have this little washer I was telling you guys about before. And that goes right over this here. Now, that was one of the things I wanted to bring up when I was telling you about shimming the Mark 28. If you've been watching these other videos, the part 1 and part 2, you'll know I talked about this and how I shaved this down some to get the clearances I needed for the transmission on that motor. And I was telling you how when I took that apart, that one of the things, because I did that like 3 years ago or something, was that it wasn't shifting correctly. Well, it wasn't so much that it wasn't shifting correctly, but when I pulled it apart, this washer was like flattened out. I wish I saved it. It was mangled. It looked like a penny you might put on the train tracks. So that kind of explained a few things. I said there was no shims in that motor. Well, that's fine. You might not have to put any shims in there. It doesn't mean it's out of whack. The only thing I get nervous about is if I pull it apart and there isn't any shims, then I'm always questioning, did somebody lose them? It's awful easy to do, and that's one of the reasons that I bought the tool. But, so on that Mark 28, that explained a few things. They put it back together with no shims. It was running a little bit tight. They ran the motor. It squashed this thing out till eventually, I guess, it didn't seem to hurt the gearing, the teeth on the gears for the transmission. It just mushroomed this thing out. So what we're going to do first is we're going to grab this is what they call a Truman carrier assembly. This here is our forward spring, and you're going to see this spring has a gap right here. Okay, so when that's the end you want to put on your carrier. You see the top has a piece sticking out here right there. So that goes to the top. Now when you put this on on this carrier, you're going to see this piece sticks up right here. Okay. That's what this spring, the bottom of the spring goes up against. And you're going to have a gap here. I'll show you when we get this together. And that's normal. So, turn this counterclockwise. I just missed that thing. Bring it around. Okay. Now, we're up against this piece right here. And here's that gap I was talking about. See, it's not tight all the way down, and that's fine. I wouldn't worry about that. Now, next thing you do is we're going to grab our drum. There's a right here. This sleeve right here. Okay, it's flat on the top. Okay, this is going to go. This protrudes out right here on the drum. This is going to go up to it. Now we're going to slide this over here, and then we're going to grab this piece of the spring that sticks up. Sometimes you can use this plate right here to help hold that. And we're going to try to work that in there. Get that as tight as you can. Okay. So you turn the bottom counterclockwise, kind of hold the top. Push this to push the two of them together. And you shouldn't have any gaps in your spring here. And then that part's all set. Now, next thing we're going to do we have I just call it the bronze washer. I should really find out what that thing's called, but we're going to set that right on here. Alright. Now this is called your neutral spring. You'll see there's a piece sitting out right there. Okay. That goes towards the top. So I'm going to set this in here. And we're going to twist this on there. I'm pretty sure that's down all the way. Okay, now it's in there. Oops, sorry. Put this over this way. Alright, now that's in there. We got our bronze washer in there. Last but not least, we're going to grab our drive shaft. We got this, what looks like a washer. Goes on here, like so. There's we'll see if this shows up. Yeah, you can see it's hollow in the middle there. That bronze piece is actually just like a bushing or whatever. We got the top of our True and carrier assembly. You'll see that rod right there. The spring. This is going to go down into that spring. Same thing, counterclockwise. Push your drive shaft down in there. And the same thing, don't get too nervous if this washer moves around a little, because it is, for the most part, it's tight right here where this spring is here. It's tight more or less in here. And that's good. That's assembled. Don't forget, you gotta let's see if you can get that on there. You can see it. There's a bronze shim in there. That's part of the carrier assembly. So, that's all assembled. Now, I'm going to set this down for a minute. I should should have probably done this before I put that together, but that's okay because I already got this figured out. I'm going to show you what we did. So we had the dryer shaft down in here. I moved this thing in and out 4, 5, 6 times. I kept playing with it until I got the right amount of shims in there to where this worked out to where it's supposed to be. So I'm going to set this in here. You're going to wiggle it around. You're going to make sure that's down all the way. Okay? And I showed you this already, but you loosen up this screw on here. Right here. Alright, and then this thing will move around. Okay? So this side you push down to that truant carrier on the bottom of the transmission while this is sitting in there. And then tighten this little lock bolt or whatever up and double check it. Make sure, set it back in there. Make sure this is just touching that copper shim that I showed you on the bottom of the truant carrier assembly. And then you'll see this piece that we just tightened up. Let's see if I can get a... You can see it's sticking down part way there, okay? Right in here. Now, what we do, set that right there for a second. Grab the lower unit, which I told you about. This is off a different motor. So you're going to take this piece. You're going to drop this. There's normally be a stud in the front here. You take that out. I'm going to drop this down on here. Like that. I'll bring this a little closer so you can see this. Alright, set that right on there like so. Okay. And then make sure this is down tight. Probably try to make sure it's on there straight. As far as not leaning over. Or, let's try it this way. You don't want to lean it over. Try to get it so it's straight. Then you take a feeler gauge and measure in here. The top of this gear is flat. You take a feeler gauge, measure the difference between this piece and this feeler gauge. That would tell you how many shims you need. Well, theoretically, this is sitting on top of there because this one's shimmed. If you see a gap there, that's a whole nother story. I told you about how this tool's a little out of whack, so I got it marked. It's 30 thousandths off. So basically what I did when I put this on here and I get it down in there, I check it. Once I hit 30 thousandths, I know I'm good. Theoretically, if this was a tool directly from Mercury, it should be sitting on there. Once it's shimmed right, it should be sitting right on that gear. But for some reason, this one's off. So now we know, by doing that I got the right amount of shims for this now. So I'm going to put this back aside for now. We'll come back to that in a minute. Yeah, let's see here. My writing's not exactly the best in the world, but if you guys did grab a pen and paper, here's the shim tool. That's the part number. 91-28987A1. If you can try to find that somewhere. I'm sure it can't be available from a Mercury dealer. I'd be amazed, but it would be interesting to find out. The number above that, where I just wrote tools, this number here, 91-27532A1. That's that tool I used to get that lock ring off and back on after we got the water pump in there. Okay, So just in case you guys want to try to find that. This tool that I like to use, you can probably make one, and I know they got tools that you can probably use that, you know, some type of, maybe a bearing puller type thing or something. You might be able to use something like that to get that out, so I didn't really bother with that tool. Let's see. The water pump that we put in this motor, this was the one that was right here. It's this pump, and that seal right there in the middle. The part number for that is 26-79831. Okay. And that's a good number. That number is superseded from an old number that would be in the book. And then on the outside of this, on this lip right here, we had that other, I'll call it an O-ring, but it's squared off. It's not exactly like an O-ring, but it looked like one. Rubber ring pump right here. That would be this one. 25-20812. Oops. Dash 20812. That number is an NLA number, but you can find them. Sometimes you might find it on eBay. MarineEngines.com's got them. Old Mercs has them, so you'll be able to find that. Also, I had mentioned on these pumps, the earlier style pump, that these were found on the early Mark 28As. They were used on the Mark 28s, the Mark 10, the Mark 10A, and the Mark 15A. I thought on the 10A and the 15A, which are 59, that somewhere middle of the year that they had switched to the newer style pump, but they did not. Not according to my books that I've got. It was on the 59 Mark 28A that they changed this somewhere mid-season. Let's see, it was the Mark 28A. I think that was it. I don't know if I'm leaving one out. Then you went into your Merc 100s, your 150, your 200, which is 10 horse, 15 horse, 22 horse. They went to this style pump. And one of the reasons I'm telling you guys this is because otherwise I'd be doing 3 different videos for 3 different motors when it's basically the same, except for the most part, the water pump's different. And this is the newer style looking water pump, which I showed you in the other videos. You can see the seal in the middle there. You can see this O-ring right here. Okay. If you have this style out of a late 59 Mark 28A, if you have this style pump in there, or you're doing a 100 or a 150 or a 200, this O-ring is, which one? You know what? I don't even know. Did I write that down there? It's a 39 number. 2439. 702 2806. Shoot, I didn't write that one down. You gotta be kidding me. I thought I did. Oh, I know why. I'm sorry. Hang on. Give me 1 second here. This is a book on the Merc 150s. But this also is 100. Yeah, I remember why now. I wrote all those down, and I decided I wanted to tell you this too. So, the seal and here's the O-ring. That'd be number 9. O-ring right here. That's 25 dash. I'll just tell you, I guess. I don't know if you can see that. Make that out. 25 25-29439. That is a current number. So that's for the O-ring that goes on the top of the pump here. And now this seal that's in here, and then we'll go back to what we're doing. The seal is right here. Let's see if we can bring that in. It's this one here, 26-20070. Okay, and that is an active seal. So you should be able to get those parts. And again, this is the late, you'll know when you pull it apart, but this is the late Mark 28A, late 59. And then in 60, in the 61, 100, 150, 200, and they did make a 250 and 62 that has an auto tranny. I've never taken one apart, so I don't know if anything's different. Not as far as I know, for the most part. But at any rate, this is the pump you'll run into. So, now, we got that out of the way. Next thing we'll do, they do with that rack. We're going to put the shims on there. On our drive shaft. And we're going to put our drive shaft in for the last time. Right here. I say I usually put the flimsier ones on the down first. So we're going to drop this down right on there like that. So you can see them on there. They're right here. Alright. We're going to pay attention to where our key is. Double check this thing, make sure I'm not forgetting anything. Everything looks good. Alright. So I'm going to try to use my finger to hold these shims for now. I haven't turned this impeller, so our keyway on our impeller is still up in here. So we're going to drop this in roughly around 1 o'clock, 1:32, whatever that is roughly. I'm going to get it with my hand here so that when I let go of this, the shims will fall in place. I'm going to bring this transmission down. Okay. There it goes. Went into the keyway. Well, that was a lot easier than it was in the part 2 video. What I'm going to do at the very bottom of this, not the aluminum part, the very center, I'm just going to give this a tap. Sounds bottomed out to me. So that's in there. Now, the next thing is to get stud back in here. And just for the heck of it, I'm just curious. I'm going to set this on here. One of the things I wanted to mention also is the part 1 and part 2 video. If you watch those, okay, so it is a little different. I was curious because now it's got the springs on there. Just a hair off, a hair different. If you watch the part 1 and part 2 video on this, you probably noticed that all of a sudden it abruptly stopped. Well, what happened was I brought the phone over to show you guys the pin in here that the water pump cartridge locks into, and I shut the phone off. So I just started it over again and kind of went from there. And I had the phone set up so if I was looking at it right now, I can see what's being videotaped, but I realized everything's backwards. The oil tank's over here. I'm telling you to turn it counterclockwise or clockwise, and it looks like I'm going the other way, and I thought, okay, can't do that. Or, well, I suppose if I could put it on a computer, I know, I guess somehow you can flip that over. But you know what? If I had one of my boys doing it, they'd probably do it in a heartbeat. Me, I'd probably erase everything I recorded. So I got to learn how to do some of that stuff. But at any rate, we're going to, let's see, this one. This is the one we want here. And this is going to go in here. So, and by the way, that was another thing. When I went to pull the lower unit, I told you it was 7/16 nuts. 7/16 to pull the power head. The lower unit is 1/2 inch nuts. So, just to correct that. I'm sure you would have figured it out. So, let me grab a 1/2 inch wrench, and I'm going to grab some removable Loctite. I'll just feel better doing that, and then that way, if one of these times I go to pull these off, pull the nuts off, I'm not going to have hopefully not going to have the studs coming out with it. So we're just going to strap a little on there. Set that right there. Okay, there's that one. I'll at least bring that down part way. Get it snug. I don't have a tool for pulling these things out, so I just do like the old school guys. Put a couple nuts together and make sure they're tight against each other, and that'll pull them out of there. We got some of this oozing out of here, so let me grab this rag. I'll just clean that mess up. Next, we're going to do the one on the lower unit, which is right here. Let's see what I'm going to do. Let's put some stuff on there first. Okay. All right. Set that in there. So during the eclipse, I was outside sanding this thing and painting it. So we did get that done. At least it looks a little better than it did. Now, that's that one there good. Yep, that's good. Now, I think I should have a socket ready here to go. Right here. I try to have this stuff ready for you guys. Try to make it a little quicker at least. So we're gonna get, probably not gonna be able to see me down here, but we're gonna pull this nut off here. Okay. Let's get the other one. Okay, now let's thread this up against this one. Oh, wait a minute. I might not have had to do that one. Oh, yeah, I did. That's right. Right. Now, let's make sure it's in there good. Okay. I wouldn't go too crazy because this stuff's basically it's just aluminum. So, matter of fact, this one back here was messed up when I bought it. The lower unit wasn't on it, and I used some what do you call that? That liquid metal stuff, like epoxy, and I got it back in there. Okay. So hopefully that's going to be alright. When I go to tighten that, I'm not going to go real crazy with it, but just in case. So get these nuts off of here. Now, I should be able to install this lower unit. Except for we have one thing left to do to it. That is, we have to install this O-ring. Okay, this, I'm going to put a little oil on this. I got a little bucket of it right here. Okay. Now, I always put a little gear oil on here because, well, one, it's going to help you put it on there, but it's also going to help this lower unit slide into the base. I cleaned this up earlier, so it was all set to go. We got our O-ring on there, and that O-ring is part number 25. It's down here. If you can see that, 25-30224. Okay, that is an active number. A lot of times I pull these apart and this piece is missing. Okay, it just helps locate, fits into the back here. Let's see if we can get this. Right there. It slides in here. Like that. Okay. And it just helps locate this so it's straight, whatever. I don't know how many I've pulled apart and they're missing, but and then one last thing before we drop it on there, in case anybody's wondering, there is no gasket on this surface. It's just metal to metal, so make sure it's cleaned up. I wouldn't put a gasket there because, well, one, they never showed one. It's not in the parts book, and I mean, you could put one if you wanted, but I'd want to know what the crush is on it, because what's going to do, it's going to change your shimming on this gear to the two gears inside there. You know, if you put a gasket on here, now you just changed your shimming a little bit. So, like I say, it didn't call for one from Mercury, so let's see if we can get this lined up. I'm going to be real curious to see how this is going to go. I got the water pickup piece on here. That's it. I don't know if you can see it from over there. It's kind of sticking up here. We'll keep an eye on that because a lot of times that likes to wreak havoc going over that stud. So I usually keep a screwdriver around or whatever. And I don't know how straight this back stud is. Let me grab a screwdriver because I got to get that water pickup piece on there. The other thing we got to do, hopefully I didn't go too far, I got to get the nut on the front here before we go down too far or it's not going to go in there. So why don't we do that? Let's see here. Did we go too far yet? Nope. So let's get that nut on there. Okay, that's good. Now, let's get this down in there. There it goes. Alright. See if we can wiggle this on the rest of the way. We should be all set. So, like I say, it's a little bit tough because that O-ring's there. But that's pretty good. Now, let's get these other two nuts started. One here. And this one goes back here. I say I'm not going to get real crazy with that one, just in case. And same as when we took this apart, we got a little 1/4 inch drive here with a 1/2 inch socket. It fits in here pretty good. So let's, there it goes. Let's tighten this up. Or at least snug it up. Yeah, let's get this one going. Got that one snug. Get this one a little bit. Alright, that one's tight. This one. Alright. And it's on there. Now, theoretically, if we really wanted, I suppose we could put the prop on there, but I'm going to show you what I found. I'm sure you guys know how to put a prop on, so we're not going to worry too much about it. But I pulled this 3-blade off the old lower unit that was on here. This collar or bushing or whatever you want to call it goes on there first. This will go in first, which I'll put never sees on there. Then the prop goes on. And then this is what they had on here. This old crusty washer. And this old nut here. I can still find these, so I've got a new washer. Okay. We have a new nut. Okay. But this wasn't on there. Okay, and this belongs on there. So basically what we would do, and incidentally that brass collar or whatever you want to call it right here didn't want to come off the old one, so I just heated it up with a small little propane torch and then she came right off. So for now I'm just going to loosely set this on here and save us the time of fooling with this. I'll do that afterwards. Then this piece, hopefully it stays on there. You'll be able to figure it out. This piece goes on this way. The side's flat where the washer's going to go up against it. You'll see this. See how that is there. This fits inside the end of the impeller. Propeller. One reason I'm doing it, I didn't paint this. I forgot all about doing it. So we're going to put that in there. Fits in there nice. And our washer. And then we'll just lightly set the nut on here. Remember, I think these are 5/8. I want to get that on there part way, but so let's see. This one's 9. That one's too big. Here's a 5/8. Let's see if this one. Yep, that's the right one. I don't want it to fall off of there. Okay, that's good enough. So, next thing we got to do is we have to work on the front of our transmission. This part's kind of where it all happens. When you shift it, when you turn the throttle, that's how this shifts. Turn the throttle. I wish I could get a better view of this for you guys, but I'll bring you over and show you. So I already put the new gasket on this plate, and you guys can use what you want. I kind of like this stuff, this Permantex Indian head stuff. I've been using this stuff forever. What I like about it is you put it on there and the gasket's kind of glued on there, and when you go to put this plate on, you got to be ready to go, because you'll know why in a second. But so I got the one side glued, and we'll get ready for the next part, which is going to be assembling this. So you've got I was playing with this earlier in the camera. Make sure I can show you this. One of these, this one right here, this one, this is the bigger of the two. You'll notice that. Wish I could get that. That's not too bad. But anyways, this one here is the bigger one. This is the smaller one. And it rides on this pin that you can barely see, but they're on this pin right here. And you'll see this side's flat. So when you shift these move. One is for forward, one is for neutral. I forget which one's which, but one, it hits that spring. Actually, those I showed you on that, what I called the neutral spring, has a tab on it. Let's see, actually that would be on the top. So this one, the bigger one must hit the neutral spring. This one hits the forward spring. So they go on just like that, and the arms kind of overlap each other, see? So what we're going to do, so I'm going to bring this over. And let's see if I can go off my memory here. It should go this way, I believe. So the bigger one is towards the top. There's an opening here, it'll slide down in there. Actually, there's little grooves in here that they should fit into. Okay, all the way down there. Now, see if I can bring you over, not shut the phone off, and show you what we just did here. Okay. So, they're down in this slot here. See these two? There's an opening there, one below it. Let's do it this way. Okay. And they're down in there. That the back of those pawls will slide right in there where my finger is. One there, and the bigger one goes on this one. Remember, I'm pointing towards the power head, or towards the top. And then these sit down in here. Okay? And I'm probably going to have to lift those up, because now we got a rod we got to put in there that I'm going to show you. And that gets an O-ring. So we're going to show you that. So let me get you guys back here for a second. Wow, this has already been an hour. Almost. Wow, we better get this done. Okay, so this is the next piece that goes in. I tried to show you this before and I wasn't doing the best job of it, but there it is. Okay, and there's a groove right in here. Alright, and this little O-ring is going to go on there. And this O-ring is 25-48171. We're going to put a little on it. And there's a couple ways of going about this. I've tried to bring it in from this side, but as I recall, I always find it easier to just go over this arm here, bring it around the corner, slide it on there. These O-rings are available. I'm sure they fit a multitude of things. I know on these Mercs that I showed you, the 62 6 horse, 9.8, model 60, 110. There's another 110 there. This O-ring actually goes on the top of the drive shaft. The same O-ring that fits this fits the top of that drive shaft. When you drop the lower unit, put a new impeller in there. So now we're going to get this in place. And I didn't mention this when we took it apart, but I did say this sits in here like so. But when you go to pull this out, I believe you either have to have it facing towards the bottom, or it could be this way too. I think it would work either way. Otherwise it gets hung up on the poles that are in there. So it's either got to be in this position, facing the top, and I believe if you put it on the bottom it would work also. So we're going to get that pushed in there, get the O-ring snapped in there. Sometimes this can be a bugger. Well, that one wasn't bad. Alright, now we're going to pull this up like that. Bring it around a little bit more. Get our shifter hooked up. There it goes. That's going to be fun. Let's see. Get a light on that. Next thing we got to do is hook up that shifter. Now, let's see. What we got is a wavy washer. Sure you know what they're like. It's very small. I don't even know if I can show you without dropping. It's really small. This wavy washer, matter of fact, I'm going to grab some needle nose. Slides on there, and we're going to use, I went and picked up some stainless steel cotter pins the other day. Let me set that right there. I'm going to show you what's normally on there, and you can't find them anywhere. And I actually went around today a couple of auto parts stores that we have in town. The one I bought a pack, they were miscellaneous ones, and they didn't have them anymore. But this is typically what would be in there. I don't know, I forget what you call these things, but hairpin or I'm way off. Wow. That doesn't show up too well, does it? Anyway, straight on one side. Got a little whoop-de-doo on the other side, so it just goes over that rod. You kind of get the idea there, I guess. That's normally what would go on there. But unfortunately, I don't have one. I can't remember. I took this motor back a while ago. Took it apart a while ago, but it probably had some rusty old cotter pin on it. Is what it had, and it didn't have the wavy washer on there either. I happen to have some of those, but while I have it, I'll try to put it on there. You gotta try to sneak it in here. It's probably why 9 times out of 10 there isn't one. If this doesn't go on here, there it goes. Alright, we got it. Got it on there. Now, we're almost done, guys. We got the... Where did I put that thing? Right here. I'm probably going to need this light. I hope this is going to fit in here okay. I don't usually use a cotter pin for this, but... So... So if you pull one of these apart, you'll see what I mean as far as that pin that's in here and the hole. The hole's on the bottom here, so. Come on. Alright. Let's see. Let me get a better pair of pliers. I might actually skip this and do it after just so I can show you guys what we got left here. And let's do that because I know this video is getting long. The next thing is our little springs. So we've got this pin. There's a little sleeve that goes on there. I'm way off. Right there, I just put that sleeve on there. Alright, let's say this is going to be the top. Now, one of these springs is a little bigger than the other one. It's a little wider in here. Okay, and this part of the spring should be a little longer too. Which would be this one. This one's a little wider. Okay, so this one should be the top. Now, this is going to go on. This part here would face up towards the motor. I'm going to slide that on our pin. The bottom one also faces towards the top. So when you put it together, that's what it should more or less look like. This is where it gets real ugly. I probably should bring you over here and show you this as best I can. There's a little groove on those pawls that we stuck in there. Probably not gonna see them. Yeah, but you can't really hardly see crap. Yeah, I can kind of